a few moments here. Here's our obligatory plug for Behind the Green Mask by Rosa Corey. Go and check that out on the channel. My interview with Rosa, ladies and gentlemen, if you can, please. Backup channel is running and Billy is here, so let's get this underway. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show. I am not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist. And my very special guest is Billy Te Kahika from the New Zealand Public Party. Billy, good morning. Well, good afternoon.
Good morning. Good to see you, and kia ora, everybody. Hope everyone's well and keeping away from the dreaded man flu.
Yes. In fact, we both got a wee bit of a dose of that. It was interesting, wasn't it, the timing? Because we just heard that Advanced New Zealand was registered so we could contest the election, and I think both of our bodies just gave out on us at that point, like, oh, what a relief. Oh, no, there's a whole bunch of stress to come, and then, boom, hit you with an illness to teach you a lesson and to make you calm down and sit down for a few moments and collect yourself. That's my perspective anyway. I could be wrong.
No, you did right. I just it was really funny because we got the news on the Thursday. Jamie Lee Ross and I flew back from Wellington. When we were actually on the plane when Jamie Lee got the notification from the Electoral Commission to say that Advanced New Zealand had completed registration, which means New Zealand Public Party will be able to stand, and it was just amazing. And then we got back to Auckland straight into meetings till midnight, and then catching the plane the next day to Whangarei, where I had meetings straight away. And like I was saying off air to you a minute ago, I felt like I had a combination of an outdoor pizza oven and a sandpapering machine in my throat. So pleased to say that went, but it was a good excuse to crash out for a good day. I went to sleep really early, which is about 7:30 for me last Friday night, and woke up at 2 o'clock the next day. So shows you how much I needed it, and I felt good after that. It was good.
Yeah, I recall Dr. Sam Shea. He said something very straightforward. You know, you'd think that this would be regular medical advice. When you're hungry, eat something. When you're thirsty, drink something. When you're tired, go to sleep. You know, and when you're horny, you know what to do. The thing we want to get into today is something a little less risque, but nonetheless dangerous for all of us. The announcement of the Labour Party platform is that this is going to be a COVID election, and we're hearing lots of reports from Australia that huge amounts of plane loads of Chinese personnel are coming into Melbourne, and lots of just chatter out there, and I've been very remiss to be able to confirm any of it. There's a lot of confusion.
Yeah, like I say, we've got to be careful about what we put out there. I mean, I've had probably half a dozen emails today from people, including a witness that I've got to validate, that said 110 non-English speaking visitors arrived at the Novotel the day or so ago, and we're just trying to get that validated. I'm trying to contact the guy that says he was an actual witness at it, but we just need to stay on target with what we know, what we're dealing with. And I posted something this morning and yesterday which showed the COVID-19 narrative being thrashed out in a New Zealand Herald article. And then it's just so important to acknowledge that we've got to wake New Zealanders up as soon as we can as to what we're dealing with here. The narrative around the lockdown is completely dishonest. They're saying if one moment, when the next. Bloomfield is again in the Herald today saying that it's a win and we need to brace ourselves for the second lockdown. Well, sorry, mate. Where's the evidence of this? Because what they're saying is that those cases of New Zealanders or people from New Zealand going overseas being tested in whatever type of testing conditions for COVID-19 are testing positive, and they're saying that they haven't come out and said it directly, but what they're implying is that there's undetected community transmission in New Zealand, and there's no evidence of that. There is no evidence for that.
Well, if I may, they detected undetected stuff, right? Is that what they were claiming?
Yeah. That's exactly it. So that's the ludicrous nature of how they're speaking. But I mean, the evidence is in the situation of what's happening in the medical sector. The medical sector, hospitals are not reporting any COVID-19 cases. Doctors aren't reporting that it doesn't exist, and yet they're saying it's here, but it's not detected. Now, I've got a statement here, by the way, from the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention, and they've admitted now that here it reads, the common cold is being counted as a positive COVID-19 result, CDC says. The Centre for Disease Control and Prevention is essentially setting policy across the country, endlessly putting out a stream of so-called facts that they then revise and rescind. Their latest update on COVID-19 posted on Tuesday reads as follows. A positive, and I quote, a positive test result shows you may have antibodies from an infection with the virus that causes COVID-19. However, there is a chance a positive result means that you have antibodies from an infection with a virus from the same family of viruses called coronaviruses, such as the one that causes the common cold. That's right, because COVID-19 is a coronavirus like the common cold, and your positive test means that you have COVID-19 or the common cold. So the CDC now, because they've been cornered by Trump and a few other people like Stanford University's Dr. John Ioannidis, they're having to come out and say, yeah, well, actually, the testing isn't distinctive. It isn't specific to C19. It's actually completely generic in what it's reading. So the PSA test that they use, which is the swab test, even the designer of the PSA says that the test that they're using is completely not fit for purpose. It wasn't designed for the type of testing that they're doing with for COVID-19. So what you're getting here is an admittal from CDC is that if you are showing that you have C19, that it is likely to be the common cold. And most of us carry coronaviruses. We've all got them. We come across them every day, and that's what they're picking up. But the concerning thing is that Bloomfield is not being called to task over this. The government's not being called to task over this, and we have to ask the hard questions.
My question here is, they have the ability to come in, forcibly test somebody, prove that they've got antibodies to the common cold, and then ship them out to some form of concentration camp facility where they can ride out this common cold, right? My question is there going to be selective enforcement? Like, for example, do they have a big list of all of these little troublemakers who enjoy this thing called freedom? Maybe we need to get them tested first.
Yeah, well, the thing that we're interested in at the political level is to find out what their intent is around rolling out COVID-19 community prevention measures around, the transmission. And what we're seeing is the systematic destruction of democracy and the New Zealand Bill of Rights by the very fact that they are now detaining people. It's not quarantine, it's detention. Now, as you know, Vinny, I was down the other week trying to support a family going through the court system in Hamilton, and I got asked to leave after 25 minutes of standing there while they decided I could stay or not as an independent observer on behalf of the whānau that had asked me there. And, when you talk to the families that are in lockdown and being managed, it's detention. And what I'm really interested in uncovering is, how far will they go in enforcing this COVID-19 health response bill, because it is a democracy destruction and human rights and personal freedoms destruction type bill. We need to know, how far will they go, and on what proven, independent, verifiable basis are they making this decision? And that's what's not coming through loud and clear. And what's happening is that Bloomfield is still taking direction from the WHO, whose models have been proven incorrect. Even Dr. Neil Ferguson, who provided the global global metrics based on his projections and modelling, had to come out and say that it was completely wrong, that it wasn't going to be millions, let alone hundreds of thousands. It was likely to be tens of thousands in the lower end, equivalent to the annual death rate that's associated with influenza deaths. So, this is a very, very serious thing, because aside from the destruction of our democracy, what we're seeing is the complete and utter destruction of our economy and businesses. I met with a leading business representative in Whangarei here yesterday, and this poor lady is about to lose everything. If and when they lock down, this business is going under, and it's going to take her under. She's got a second mortgage on her business to keep it afloat so she can pay wages. She's a travel sector agent, and the Minister of Tourism, Kelvin Davis, who's also the MP of Te Tai Tokerau, who's done nothing in almost 3 years up here, is the minister, and he's refusing to acknowledge the culpability of the fact that they haven't come up with anything for these people. These 5,000 travel agents across New Zealand, they helped rescue thousands of New Zealanders trapped overseas when the lockdown began, and saving the government millions and millions of dollars, and Calvin's not addressing them, and that deeply disturbs me. So what we're seeing is systematic destruction of democracy, systematic deconstruction of our economy and the businesses that sit inside it.
And human rights, let's not forget, the right against forced medical procedures is one of the first things that was mentioned in the Nuremberg Code, which means, ladies and gentlemen, if you agree with it, that makes you technically a war criminal, okay? And that is something that people need to get around their heads. Your government is advocating war crimes on its own people, okay? They are at war with you, ladies and gentlemen. There is but one party that I've seen so far that recognises or even comes close to recognising that fact, and that is Advanced New Zealand Public Party, right? And people argue about this can argue about the details all the live long day, but there isn't anybody else who doesn't want to stand down to that kind of thing. They're either compromised, they're communists, or they're not smart enough to see the truth of this matter. This might be our last election. The guns are gone, free speech is gone, or your right against medical procedures are gone. Ladies and gentlemen, what else are they going to take next? What is it going to take for you to stand up and fight?
Yeah, I think there is huge concern out there.
Oh, sorry, Billy. Just sorry to interrupt. Would you be able to tilt your camera down just a little bit and bring your head up in the frame there?
That way?
Oh, let me see.
Or the other way?
Slightly down a tad.
That way?
No, other way.
Other way. Okay, sorry, mate. How's that better?
A little bit. There we go. That's better. Okay, sorry.
There we go. Okay, got my little fella running around in the back there. So no, people are deeply concerned. I posted something today which I hadn't seen properly before, which was the Comrade video of footage of Jacinda at a 2009 event for the International Youth Socialist Movement organisation, where she no less than 15 times in 7 minutes refers to her comrades and comrades this and comrades that. But beyond that, if you look at what she's actually saying, she's actually speaking into life Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, which she has already committed New Zealand and her government to fully implementing, which is the ultimate rights and freedoms destroyer in terms of what we enjoy in New Zealand, what we're allowed to eat, how we grow it, what we do with our water collection, what we do with our water, all that stuff, living in high density population zones, super cities where you live up, not out, up in high-rise buildings. She was talking about it way back then, and the language that she's using is pure communistic. What they do now, Vinny, you'd be aware of, is that they use neo terms such as communitarianism. Communitarianism, which is really, there's probably a different couple of ways you can look at what that means, but it's really like a buzzword for new communism because of the bad stuff that's attached to communism. But you can't fool us. And I mentioned that in my post today. Just everyone, do your own research research, look at the study communism. I had one good friend of mine, actually, who I love dearly. She said, no, Jacinda's not a communist. Well, sorry, she is. I mean, what the heck is the Youth Socialist Organisation about? When you go into what they're talking about, it's 101 communism, and more than anything, if you examine the behaviour of the government and what they're doing with their laws, it's total socialism / communism. You don't have to be too clever to work that out. And what we're seeing here is a very, very cunning way of bringing it into full existence in our country. And the disturbing thing that you're seeing, of course, is the fact that the media has been paid off. They have been bought off by tens of millions of dollars from Jacinda's government, of our money, of the public's money, and the media is complicit to putting out this fair agenda and the story that she's doing the right thing, which she isn't.
Now, Stephen Joyce was the former communications minister and the former head of Media Works before he went to become the communications minister for the National Party. I believe this was in 2008. At the time, they were $30 million in debt to the government in unpaid broadcast licensing fees. And so what was his first move as communications minister? To give them the money. All right. This is not new, folks. I think that the communism runs straight through the National Party, straight through the Labour Party, and it definitely looks like we're talking about communist infiltration, perhaps behind the Green Party, and now New Zealand First as well. And these are the only parties that were previously polling that were even capable of getting into Parliament over the 5% threshold. That means to me that communists are in charge of our government, regardless of which government it is. And that means we need an entire reordering of the way that we do things in this country in order to prevent the future machinations of communism, i.e. the extermination of those who won't be slaves. All right? And we need a massive reorganisation of how we're thinking and how the population is educated about these issues and understand that it is life or death, because many, many people have died under communist regimes in the past, and if we're not careful, we're going to see it happen here again.
Yeah, that's right. 120 million people have died in communist countries where dissidents haven't agreed with what the government is doing. So that's 120 million people that we know of. But I think there's another principle involved in this, is that you have globalistic people that are in both Labour and National. You've got them in NZ First. You've got them. You've got now a fully capitulated Greens Party that's now completely absorbed in Labour principles, and so really we don't have anyone fighting for these things that we're talking about, or against these things that we're talking about today, and that's really truly disturbing. I think I've frozen. Are you still hearing me okay, Vinny?
Yeah, you're coming through clear.
Oh, great. Okay. All right. So I'm really disturbed by that, and that's why it's so important now that everybody puts, any sort of minor issues or reasons not to support Advance New Zealand and New Zealand Public Party, just put them aside. We've got to do this together. Again, we were the other day, we were reaching out to some of the minor parties, and it's just they're living in a different planet. They're thinking that they're going to do it. They've got very, very niche policies in that. And just on that note, we are developing some major, awesome policies that we're going to release in hopefully next week, additional to what we have online already. And but the number one thing that we say, if you don't have democracy, you can't implement anything else that's going to be good for the people. Everything will be state controlled. It'll be about the state agenda, which has become the international globalist agenda. And this isn't conjecture. Just look at the discussions that I'm having with like Invercargill Council, where they are being totally bullied and imposed upon by central government to hand central government the keys to their water program, which they want to see managed by a private corporation. That's fascism right there. I'm not necessarily against the idea of private public partnerships. It's how they're framed, and that the New Zealand public are absolutely protected when they enter into these arrangements, so that you don't have a situation like they had in Bolivia, where you have a private water company that decides that they'll charge what it's like wanting to charge people at any one they want, as much as they want, and that's fascism when that is fully rolled out in verity. That's the pure definition of what fascism is when you have corporate power in partnership with the government, and the corporate power becomes the big boy in the relationship, and they basically control the issue because they are a private organisation answerable to no one. So this is where this government is taking things, and they're taking things that way very, very quickly. I had a lovely lady from Tauranga ring me up the week before last, telling me about the issues that she's had trying to build her elderly mother a very, very tiny house cottage behind their property, behind their house, and she rang me up to tell me all about Agenda 21. I was amazed by her, this lady. It sounded like everyday housewife and middle class Tauranga, and she rang me up and she gave me a great lecture about Agenda 21. I was amazed by her, actually. She knew everything about it because she's battling it in the council. So, but it's a different thing again once it starts to Agenda 21 and sustainable development and Agenda 2030 gets adopted by a central government. Then you're going to see things really, really rapidly pick up, and that's what we need to stand against. And I agree with you, Vinny. I don't think with what we're dealing with right now, with the talks about the second lockdown, which is going to be the nail on the coffin of many, many businesses across New Zealand. It's going to be the thing that's going to take us over the precipice. But not only that, from a freedoms and democracy point of view, it's just it's all being aimed at us. And one thing we don't want is to have mandatory vaccinations. We want pro-choice across all of the issues and that's another important thing that we stand on is pro-choice. We're not anti-vax. No, we're absolutely positive about being pro-choice, and that's absolutely important. Fluoride as well. We don't want fluoride in water. If a local DHB picks up on the community and what the community wants, if the community says, yep, we want fluoride, or no, we don't want fluoride, then that's what the DHB should be doing. But unfortunately, central government has picked up that issue as well, and going to be controlling it through the Ministry of Health rather than the local DHBs, and that's wrong. That's centralisation.
That's right. And on the fluoride issue, some people, still support fluoride, but they don't support mandatory vaccination. Forced medication is forced medication. I don't care how you dress it up. That's what it is. If you've got a medication for any kind of perceived benefit in the public drinking water, that's forced medication. And again, war crimes. That's basically my perspective on it, because I like to be very concise. And a lot of people will argue or be upset by that. But here's the problem with facts and results, is that they don't care what you think. They don't care what you believe. They are what they are. Fluoride is a toxic poison. It is a medication, and you shouldn't be putting it in people's drinking water. Even if they say, I want it, anybody within the community who says, I don't want it, is being force medicated, right? And you can't adequately measure the dosage when it's coming through the drinking water. Like, let's say, for example, what medication could one name where somebody could drink as much as they like and never have any negative side effects or something of life. Such medications do not exist, and because you can't measure the dosage of how much water people are drinking, it's inherently dangerous, even if it was a positive medication, which the facts say otherwise. It causes cancer, it is a spermicide as well, which could be linked to the very, very low birth rates that we've got here in New Zealand right now. It could be one of those mitigating factors. So there's a whole can of worms on that issue, and if people think that it's a choice or what have you, that's fine. You can get a bag of fluoride from Solvay Fluorides. That's where we get our fluoride from. It has cadmium, lead, arsenic, and various other toxic chemicals within it that are contaminants, because this is a waste product. And you can just put a spoonful of that in your tea every morning, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want your fluoride. There is nothing to stop you from poisoning yourself. But just don't poison me. Don't poison everybody else. Please. I'm asking nicely.
Yeah, well stated. And I think one of the funniest things that when you look at a tube of toothpaste, what does it say there? Don't swallow it. You know, don't swallow any of it. Spit it out. And if you do, contact your poison centre. You know, I think that's a bit of a dead giveaway. And people just need to do their history check. Of course, you know, again, fluoride was used in water to placate prisoners by the Nazis. That's a fact. Communists picked it up after World War II and used it for the same purpose. So, you know, it can be used for nefarious purposes, but even if you take those out, just look at the pure medical basis on it. And you know, one of our top orthodontists up here in Northland, working for the DHB, he actually came out and said there's no reason for fluoride to be in water. There's no proof of a benefit for it. So I was pretty astounded that that man did that. One of the things I did want to pick up today on Vinny is that I want to talk about some of the policies that we're developing, which are really, really important. So a lot of people are saying, when you're coming out with your policies, well, we've got some things on what we stand for on our nzpp.org website anyway, but we're like little chipmunks preparing for winter with writing up all our policies and that, and we're doing a lot of work in those areas. One of the things I want to pick up is housing. I was working on housing before the lockdown, and I'm pretty much across all the different options and the issues around housing. In Northland, for example, in Te Tai Tokiro, we've got literally hundreds and hundreds of families and people that aren't in houses that need them. I mean, these numerous articles, you just need to Google whangare and housing pressure and housing demands and, you know, needed housing sort of buzz lines to Google. It's all there, and you know, across the country, it's just so slow to get what we need for housing for not only at-risk people, but also people just needing to be able to buy homes and have them consented, you know, against plans. It's very, very important, and so we've got a housing strategy that we're going to announce so that people at the lower end of the economic ladder can actually get on the ladder and start improving themselves, and that's through home ownership. That's how you do it. But these homes that need to be built, they need to be robust, they need to be healthy to be lived in, they need to be good for the environment, and they need to be economical so that people can afford them. And what we're doing is that we're working on a policy whereby people are going to have a chance to actually have sweat equity in their homes and therefore become a person that can pay off a mortgage and eventually become a homeowner. And that's how you actually get onto the economic ladder as an individual. It's through, you know, having a good asset like a home that you can pay off over a period of time. And really the way that the government is doing is just, you know, treating people that need social housing and that it's a road to nowhere, because people get stuck in these cycles of being on these social houses, and they never have an opportunity to own them, and they're just kept in this poverty cycle, and the houses are rubbish and cheap and cold to live in and unhealthy, and that's why you see so many respiratory situations with Māori Pacific Islanders and people that live in these social housing houses. And you know, they're terrible up here in Northland. We know that an iwi's been allocated 80 homes to build for social housing. That concerns me if the houses are low quality. It concerns me if they create slums where people that are economically disadvantaged are together, and it's just it's disturbing to see that. It's a road to nowhere, and this government's spending about $600 million every quarter on emergency housing and temporary housing. That's wrong. You know, when you go into Gisborne, when you go into Rotorua, places all around the country, they are absolutely packed full of people living in motels, so there's very little stock for people that can come in as a tourist to stay. It's amazing. I was in Invercargill last week. One hotel had 600 people in it, and the guy now needs to turn his hotel back into a commercial hotel for a different purpose. And so where are these 600 people going to go? In Invercargill alone, they need 2,000 houses built immediately, and it's just shocking what's going on there. So what you need is that you need policies whereby the government can actually take an entrepreneurial approach to getting the houses and the resource consents approved and building consents approved, so that the building sector can actually execute building, and 2, stopping the endless use and wastage of money that's going nowhere, funding temporary and emergency housing, and then 3, helping people get onto the economic development ladder by owning their own homes. And that's something that we can do. If you just used a portion of that 600 million that you're spending every 3 months, we could help entire communities actually become house owners, rather than social housing dependent, cyclic, poor people. And that's a terrible thing to be trapped in. As you know, Vinny, I grew up in a state house in Mangere, and I worked very, very hard to get myself out of that sort of situation. And both my all of us own homes in my family now, and I want to be able to help other people do that. The other thing is, of course, we want to get Chinese Communist Party influence out of New Zealand. It's massive. It's actually, I've been learning a lot about it from Jamie Lee Ross, and the stuff that I've learned about what's been happening with both National and with Labour is it's amazing that they've got that sort of influence here, and that's why we're losing so much of New Zealand to China, because they're just buying everything up, and it is a strategy, as I've seen as well with my involvement with them. It is a strategy called the Red Strategy, that they have to invade people through business, not militarily, and it's a long burning strategy, and it's working because they've taken over the South Pacific, and pretty soon, if they get their way here, they're going to do the same thing here in New Zealand. And also, I do need to address that the other day I posted a post about Huawei being the direct sponsor of the Labour Party's launch. Okay, now technically I was wrong, because it wasn't a direct relationship, but I find it very, very strange when you have a Labour Party government that's under investigation by the SFO for receiving funds from the Chinese Communist Party, suddenly having Huawei splashed all over our Parliament footage that the New Zealand Herald uses, splashed all over their campaign launch through the New Zealand Herald, and that looks okay to you? Huawei is it's a front for intelligence. Everybody knows that. Huawei's been thrown out of the United States, out of the United Kingdom. It's under investigation in Australia. It's under investigation and being virtually banned in Canada. And we're the only ones that say, no, Huawei, we'll just brand you all over our parliamentary footage and over our government's campaign launch. And I think that, if it smells like a dead rat, then generally it is, and I think it looks inappropriate. And that's where I was coming from the other day. But technically I was incorrect, and Heather du Plessis-Allen took great joy in saying that I was technically incorrect, and she was correct, but morally, no, I'm bang on target there, because the association, I think, is inappropriate, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah, I think we quibble about the details and that kind of thing, and the main point you need to get across is that communists are infiltrating you, they're corrupting you, and they're going to kill you, or if you ain't going to die, you're going to be enslaved, and that's how the cookie crumbles, and anything else beyond that discussion is fairly superfluous, in my opinion. They have a methodology of psychological warfare, and when psychological warfare don't work, they use financial warfare, and when financial don't work, they use kinetic warfare, real physical attacks, and we have no defence plan for a military armada of the Chinese size to protect our shores at current, because due to the United Nations disarmament program over the last generation, really, we've been getting demilitarized and are now in a less capable position to defend ourselves. Now, Huawei are connected to the PLO, the People's Liberation Army Intelligence, and when they decided to enter New Zealand, build the backbones to our networks and things of that nature, this was under the John Key government, every single intelligence advisor in New Zealand, every advisory panel, every advisor themselves said, don't do it. But we did it anyway, and now they've got a backbone to our network. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. There's such a huge difference between National and Labour, isn't there? Maybe you should vote for one to keep the other out. They both get in no matter who votes for them or not, ladies and gentlemen. Stop living in the past and start listening to the past, okay? It will tell you what your future's going to look like. Question: how many other parties in this election, or any other, have come out describing the communist threat, the Agenda 21 threat, the world government threat? Whom has been talking about this all this time? Nobody. That's all. All right. And we need to understand as well, we were talking about homes before. Hemp is a really, really great fibre to use. 3 hectares, I believe it was 1 hectare or 3 hectares or something like that, is a 3-bedroom home. They are warm, they are efficient, they are capable of being grown here in New Zealand, manufactured here in New Zealand in very easy to do increments. We currently import hemp chips from Australia because there is so much red tape on the New Zealand hemp growers industry that even if they wanted to save this country, even if they wanted to build us houses, even if they wanted to provide us with the materials and process them correctly, they would not be able to. And the other question is the community involvement within this. There are a lot of unemployed people in this country who, I'm sure, for even as much as a sandwich and a meal and something to do, would work on these farms and things of that nature using Māori land or whatever. But the real question is the community actually able to do that? And once people do buy their homes and get their homes, will they have an allodial title to that? Okay, will they actually have a right to that land in and of themselves that the government doesn't necessarily own and can just kick them off like that?
Yeah, exactly. You see, that's one of the issues again that people are coming to us with real test cases and samples of instances where the government's coming in and confiscating land off farmers down in the west coast. Walking onto someone's land and seeing that they've got wetlands there and confiscating them. Why? Because they want to repurpose that land into non-human go zones. It's amazing what's happening down there. And this is happening now. This is not future. This is not conjecture. This is happening right now. And we've got farmers that are reaching out to us saying, "What the hell is going on here?" And these are ordinary, everyday Kiwis. The thing that people got to remember, the things that we're talking about, these aren't fringe, tinfoil hat wearing things. These are happening right now. And do we want to stand for it? I've just had 2 messages just now that have been sent to me. One is from one of our candidates saying that 1ZB right now is doing a hit piece on Advanced New Zealand. And you know what? And he says a good point here. He says the cabal must be, the government must be very, very worried when they start, really pushing this agenda out through the media, because there's no doubt in my mind that the media is complicit to this. The journalists that I've been speaking to, a couple of them have been really, really good. And one of them, Stephen Bronius, is a fantastic writer. He did a great article on me over the weekend, which I found really interesting. I had a game of ping pong with him and gave him a good thrashing. And that's how he measures candidates, is by the way that they play the ping pong game at table tennis. So that was pretty awesome. And he reckons he worked out that I'm going to win a seat in Parliament just by the way that I play ping pong. So I was quite encouraged by that. But anyway, seriously, isn't
that like a Chinese game? I was just asking myself. But anyway, go ahead.
Good point. Yeah, good point. But anyway, the fact is that the media is fully complicit in this. But however, I've got another message here saying that someone at stuff.co.nz, just make sure that, no, it's New Zealand Herald, a journalist asked Jacinda a hard question: have you been tested for COVID-19? And she said no. Well, come on, isn't good leadership about leading from the front? One of the questions I'd like to ask, and I'm hoping that she would say no, is whether she's vaccinated her baby. I'm really hoping that she's going to say no, or whether she would allow a COVID-19 vaccination needle to be forced into her child. And I don't want that on that little girl at all. Bless her heart. But what we're saying is that we don't want it in our children and ourselves if we don't want it, and that's the pro-choice angle. on, and that's what they're taking away from New Zealanders is pro-choice, and that's wrong. Just on the firearms issue too, I had someone ask me about that yesterday. So we've got an exciting video that we're going to release hopefully on our Facebook page and website today, or if not tonight. I went down and had a good shoot with the Hamilton Pistol Club the other week, and had to talk to them about firearms related issues and licensing classes and things like that. And I just want to say to all the firearms license holders out there that when we get in, one of the things that we're going to do, we're going to lobby like hard and include in our wish list or demand list that the firearms laws get repealed, as they are now back to where they were prior to the last election, because the issue is not with licensed firearm holders, license holders. It's not that. The issues are really around people that aren't licensed and with a criminal approach to having firearms. They're the issues, and people with mental illnesses having firearms that will do crazy things with them. They're the issue. It's not the licensed person walking down through Christchurch shooting people, or going to walk down Queen Street blowing people away. It's the people that don't have licenses. And what I'm all about is number one is safety. Number two is training and qualifications, and number three, a thorough vetting process where people like the Christchurch shooter cannot get granted a license or to have a firearms, where they have an opportunity to go and do something like the tragedy down there. Now, so I want to say to all the firearms license holders out there, I am ex-military. I've done plenty of weapons training in my time, and I believe it's not the weapons that are the problem, it's the people that handle them. But what we do have right now is a very, very faulty law. It's democracy destruction as well as illogical. And because all the firearms people that I know right now, they've got firearms, they're very, very careful, they're qualified, and they can handle themselves with firearms, and that's what's needed. So we need to get in there to fix one of the many issues, and this is one of them. So we're going to be putting up our firearms issues policy. We're also going to be putting up our agriculture policy as well, because we feel that the primary sector and especially the agri sector within it is getting a real raw time from government, and we want to get in there and fix that. We've been speaking to loads of farmers about how to start a good policy, and we're a good way through that. I've got some great material that farmers have sent to me to look at, and so we've got some really, really neat stuff out. And I just want to point out that Labor hasn't announced any policies. National has got a very, very, very thin veil of them. We've actually got more stuff really on our website than what we've done now already than they have. Now, around economics and business, that's a big one for me, and that's something that I'm personally wanting to oversee. Trade, international trade, and business and economics are tied into each other. If we're going to get ourselves out of this deep, dark financial rabbit hole that we're in, that the government is pushing us down. We've got $110 billion debt coming out of the COVID-19 crisis. Why? Because we've had 26 people that were sick and unwell, bless their souls, that caught a virus that killed them tragically. But had they caught the regular common flu, it would have had the same result. And that's what we're saying. We're not saying for 1 second that COVID-19 doesn't exist. That's not the issue. We know it does. What we're talking about is what the issue is being used for and how it's destroying our economy. Those are the questions that we need to deal with. And if we don't deal with them and represent our concerns in the way that people vote this election, then we're going to get steamrolled by a whole number of things that are coming through the pipeline that completely disturb us.
Yeah, the concept of splitting the vote doesn't sound like a very good tactical move at this particular point. And on the vaccination issue, my child's unvaccinated, and I'm just going to show people a little 10-second clip.
Oh, here she is.
It's just real cute. She's just got this little face, and she's very, very sweet. And what we really don't want to see is the kind of thing that happens to people when they. Basically, here's the real concept here. Look at the cute face. All right, and just think about this for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. What if she no longer made eye contact with me anymore? What if she no longer laughed anymore? Okay, because she was so badly damaged by ingredients in a vaccine that she couldn't. What if she had long-term illnesses that were incurable? Okay, this is the thing that we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. It is the life of our children. They grow up to be adults, and then they have children of their own, and then they become grandparents, ladies and gentlemen. It's not necessarily about her. It's not about me. It's not even about you, ladies and gentlemen. It is about those who are yet to be born, those that are yet to come. What kind of a world are they going to be born into? And they will be born into a world of terror and destruction of their health unless we act now to protect it.
Well stated, and it's lovely to see your baby like that. And that's what, I saw my son, I saw my son gradually evolve into a son that didn't make eye contact. And that was after his MMR. And, people can say whatever they like, but I've been looking at this topic for a number of years. My son's now 20, and all we're saying is pro-choice. Because science won't win the argument, but democracy will. Just be pro-choice. I had someone again from the Opportunities Party a few weeks ago say, when he was talking to me, "Oh, you're one of those anti-vaxxers," and I said, "No, I'm not. I'm about pro-choice. Everybody should have the right to decide what they want to have put or not put into their body. It's as simple as that. And when you take that away from someone, that's a breach of the most basic fundamental rights that a human should have to make sure that they're, that they have their personal sovereignty expressed and defended. And that's what it's about. And informed consent. But you can only have informed consent if you know what you're dealing with. And as we know that. Centre for Disease Control and Prevention in the United States that regulates the vaccine sector, they've admitted many times and had more than a dozen scientists that work there come out and say the entire process is fraudulent, it's fraught with problems, and cannot be trusted. So what we need to do then is say, okay, well, give me the facts about what's in this blinking thing, and let me make up my own mind about whether I want it in my body or that of my child. And then give me that, and that's a human right. If someone says they want it, that's fine. That's fine, but let's not, make it mandatory that people lose their choice, and that's deeply disturbing because that's where this government, the way it is right now, is heading us.
And there hasn't really been any vaccinated versus unvaccinated studies, ladies and gentlemen. So you're absolutely right, Billy. The science isn't going to answer us to this because people won't do the science. All right, it takes a lot of money to finance vaccine trials and things of that nature. And they're financed by the private sector who wish to make money off them. So they have a financial incentive to hide any bad stuff that they find, and there's almost no financial incentive for them to tell people the truth if they find something bad. And that's what's really difficult about this situation. And just on a side note, one thing I want to see with this election, this is just me personally, little boy Vinny, I want to see Dr. Lance O'Sullivan and Billy Te Kahika get into a fist fight over vaccines. Man, that would just make the election for me. I'm sorry for the crass and immature nature of that, ladies and gentlemen. That's just how my mind works. And the side effects and list of ingredients. I don't know how many times when I was in hospital with my baby in Skiboo, where they said, "Oh, we're going to give her this vaccine, we're going to give her that vaccine." I go, "Okay, have you got a list of side effects or ingredients?" I don't know how many times they said, "Oh, well, no, we don't. I've never even heard of a side effect. I've never heard of a list of ingredients." Nobody's ever asked that before once in my entire 20-year career. And I go, that is completely unsurprising and also terrifying, considering I can look up drugs.com within seconds and find you the side effects or ingredients on pretty much any medication in existence. That is how quick and easy it is, and it is against your rights if they don't give you that information. My rights were violated many times while I was in hospital with my daughter, asking for lists of ingredients, asking for lists of side effects, and not being provided by them. And that's North Shore Hospital, ladies and gentlemen. That's one of the biggest medical institutions in this country, and they can't find a list of side effects or ingredients. That is incredibly frightening to me.
Yeah, exactly. and you know, the amount of nurses that you speak to as well that administer vaccines, they don't know what the dangerous mercury version of thimerosal is that's in these ingredients in vaccines. And really, what we need to do, it's all about asking the questions and having the right to ask the questions. That when make the industry have to respond as to the concerns of people. That's what we have to do, and do it in such a way that they understand what the question is, and that we want independent, verifiable information. And that's what I'm saying to people. We need independent, verifiable, medical-based information as to why this government wants to lock us down, when it appears very, very clearly that there is no such thing. And yet the main part of the population base is believing that Jacinda won't do anything wrong. Well, I'm sorry. This entire thing here, in terms of the narrative around it, is very, 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 very suspicious looking. It doesn't look good. I've got people that have been asleep for years and years, Labour supporters that have woken up and gone, what the hell is going on? What is this? What the hell is happening here? Why is this government doing this? They're asking the questions themselves, and what's happening is, for us, is that we're getting loads of people, hundreds of them, thousands of them, reaching out to us, asking questions and about what's going on, and it's great to see, and we need to keep encouraging people to ask the questions, because when you start to ask the questions, you're going to have to actually look for the answers, and once you see what's going on, you can't unsee it, and that's the issue. I mean, I've had people say to me that they wish they'd never ever looked at one of my broadcasts, because now their eyes are open, they can't unsee what they've seen, and after that, it's like that. Are you going to take the blue or the red pill? Once you take a pill, you got to live with it, and I prefer to take the pill that's the one that keeps me absolutely it keeps me awake and aware of the actions and the activities of this hostile government. And I just want to point out too, just a couple of things before I go around the other parties. Winston Peters has lost so much mana out there amongst his voters. We get so many people that were NZ First voters coming to us, and these are desperately concerned citizens, patriotic citizens, that are saying that they've had enough of people that are just politicking like Winston. He's got, the joke of it is, in his billboards, he's got, back your future. Well, it's because of him backing the Labour Party that our future's been destroyed. So do you trust a politician like that? I don't. New Zealand First is imploding. They've also got an MP that brought in the internet censorship bill. That's no good. Greens, who are they? Well, they're now an environmental arm and extension of the Labour Party.
If I may, they're merely an Agenda 21 front group. That's my opinion.
They are. No, they completely are. As you know, Vinny, they did have Agenda 21 referenced on their website, but when people gave them grief about it, they took it off and then rewrote it and put it back under a different name. So it's exactly that, and they can't be trusted. Marama Davidson, as a Māori MP, has proven herself, untrustworthy. She should have spoken about some of these things that are going to affect our country greatly, and she hasn't. And there they go. Then you've got the Māori Party. They've got John Tamahere there. He's never really done anything for anyone other than himself. He's managed money, as part of whānau order. He expected to do a lot better than what he did at the Auckland mayoral candidacy race, and he didn't. And really, the Māori Party again aren't standing on the very most important issues that are affecting our people, also affecting all New Zealanders, and they are remiss. And then it just goes on, and they're not even touching on the minor parties. We had a talk the other day with some of them, and they're just on a different planet. They're not seeing what a dire situation that it is. You can't have monetary reform excuse me, without democracy. You won't have the outdoors. Because if they fully implement this agenda, they're going to take outdoors away from us immediately, and so you won't have any outdoors policies brought in. And it just goes on. New Conservatives, they've got their policies which appear very, very strange, where they try and alienate solo mums and put them into homes with older couples to help her become a mother. I mean, that's quite strange actually, but they're not even seeing it, and it just goes on. Then you have the Christian parties now, as you know, Vinny. I'm a very, very committed Christian, but we've got Christian parties that have taken a very, very strange stance in around the whole election. I had one of the leaders say to me the other day, they don't really mind if they don't get into Parliament. Well, I'm like, well, then what the hell are you doing? Because we need to save this country, and the only way we're going to do that is to get into Parliament to provide backbone to an opposition, or win the election so that we become the controlling interest in the party. But they're not in the Parliament, and they're not seeing it, and it's just absolutely astounding. So I just want to encourage people out there, please join up with us on nzpp.org and sign up as a member. We need your financial support, your moral support. Advance New Zealand is a fantastic umbrella that is going to do very well, we feel, but we just can't let a second go by without pushing a narrative that this government is hostile. Advance New Zealand Public Party is the only party speaking about these things. We've also got great, diverse and broad policies that are going to deal with everything from firearms to farming, business, national sovereignty, trade, health, you name it. We're going to go environmentalism. So we are going to deal with these things, and our policies, once we announce them, they're going to be something that you can be proud of.
One can only hope. David Icke once told me that you can't convince anybody of anything, but you can tell them things they cannot unhear. And I've got to tell the listeners that if this is the first time hearing information like this, if, like the person that you mentioned before, Billy, they wish they'd never done this, here's the problem with that mentality. It has happened. Okay? You can't argue with it. It has already happened. And now you're going to suffer the grief process just like we all did. You're going to deny it. You're going to get angry with it. You're going to try and bargain with it and find yourself a way out of it. And when you find out that you can't, it's going to make you really, really depressed. And only once you find a way through it will you achieve acceptance. And the vast majority of people do not achieve acceptance. They avoid their trauma their whole lives, and it manifests as a form of mental illness, fighting against something that they know isn't going to work. And I think that perfectly describes the vast majority of political candidates in this country. Okay? These are people who have been traumatized, see something wrong, and they're just trying to fight the something wrong instead of accepting the fact that it is real and that they need to do something real about it. And it starts in here, ladies and gentlemen, right in your heart. That is what you need to change first. If you cannot change yourself, how are you going to change your family? If you cannot change your family, how are you going to change your community? If you can't change your community, how are you going to change your region? If you can't change your region, how are you going to change your country? And if we can't change this country, how is the world ever going to change? Is that a decent enough little placard to put on the billboards, ladies and gentlemen? Take the red pill. Take it. No matter what consequences there are, chips fall where they may. It is the responsible thing to do, and that is what adults are. They're responsible. So let's be adult about it. Let's take the red pill, and let's realise that there is no alternative. If you don't want communism, if you don't want world government, Advance New Zealand is the vote for you. Thank you very much. Now, I think I'm actually completely out of points here, Billy. So the other thing I'm going to do is give you a few minutes left of the broadcast for some shameless self-promotion. This show's kind of like a bathtub. It doesn't work very well without a plug.
Yeah, no, very, very good. Okay, so I'm going to be walking around the streets of Whangarei today. It's just stopped raining a little bit for me to do that, so I'm going to get suited up and out there. And So I'm going to be on my way to meet my team in town, and just want to let you know that Advance New Zealand, we have 800 billboards coming out this week, so they're going to be everywhere, and we've got another whole bunch of them that's going to come out the following week, and we've got heaps of intensive marketing stuff to come out. So very, very grateful to our donors out there that are helping us fight this fight. I'm in Dargaville tomorrow night as well at the museum speaking, and want to invite everyone to come in to hear what we're saying. Or you Māori out there, come in and hear what I have to say about how I'm going to be serving Te Tai Tokerau once I get into Parliament as the MP for Te Tai Tokerau, because our people need stuff up here, and if we can get things right for our Māori seat, they'll be right for everybody of every ethnicity. This is not a separatist thing. This is, I care for everyone, as you know, Vinny, and everybody needs to be looked after, and that's why I'm doing this, because the thousands of people asked me to take the stand. I'm doing that. Now the rubber's hitting the road. We've got less than 40 days now to save our country, and but once we do that, we also need to get the details sorted out and all things sorted out in terms of making sure that people can live the Kiwi lifestyle and live the Kiwi life and have food that's good for them, have rights to build on their homes, and have jobs and have houses and to live in that they can own. And that's really important for me, to work hard for Te Tai Tokerau, because as people know, I'm not a career politician. I'm a worker. Always have been a worker. That's why I've got where I've got, and I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I'll work very, very hard for Te Tai Tokerau, which extends from northwest Auckland, North Shore Auckland, right up to the Cape, and that's my idol here. That's my territory that I'll be serving, and it's going to be really, really important to me that at last someone that can roll their sleeves up and get their working ethic together into the House of Parliament to work for the people up here, because it's desperately needed. And on that note, we've got some really fantastic general seat candidates that are just hard-working people that want to make a difference. The Māori seat candidates are fantastic. They've been places, they've done things. They're not just bureaucrats that are rolling out of a bureaucratic position into a political party and expecting to stand. And there's some value in people like that. There is. But what we want are real people that understand what challenges are and how to deal with them and how to surpass them, so that good outcomes can be arrived at for our people, all people. So I look forward to that and seeing you guys out there. I'm in Wanganui on Sunday, back to see a lot of my whānau down there, and then we've got heaps of campaigning. We've got a big event next Tuesday as well in Whangarei in Central Town, which we're very excited about. And so I'll keep you well informed of those things. So thanks for having me again, Vinny, and take care, everyone. And remember, Advance New Zealand, Public Party, we are your voice. We will say the things that people want to give us rubbish about, but they are valid things. They are deeply concerning issues, and they do concern all of us as New Zealanders and free-thinking people. We're your power because you wanted this movement to happen, and here it is. It's happening, and we are your party because you wanted it to be this way. So we're very proud of that, and always remember that the truth will be ridiculed every time, and that's what we're standing up for, truth. And a lot of people that are too scared to let themselves be known as supporters of us are going to come out, and they're going to vote. So make sure that you're enrolled to vote, please, because you can't vote for Advance New Zealand and me if you're not enrolled to vote. So if you're in Te Tai Tokerau and on the Māori seat or electoral roll, then please make sure you vote Billy Te Kahika, New Zealand Public Party. Everywhere else is Advance New Zealand. So thanks, everyone. Take care. Kia ora.
And 1 second, just before you go, Billy, I do want to show people the evidence that we were talking about before when we said that the Green Party was using Agenda 21 as their policy statement. And here's the screenshot that I took all those years ago, and there it is: sustainable development specific policy points taken from the Green Party website, building on Agenda 21. Right there it is. And they even had a definition on their website, ladies and gentlemen. Agenda 21, the United Nations Action Plan for Sustainable Development, ratified 1992. Ratified by who? not you, ladies and gentlemen. That was signed by your former Prime Minister, Jim Bolger, on Prince Charles's private yacht. You weren't party to it. Neither was I. Nobody was, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you call a secret agenda. I'm sorry, that's the definition. The reason why I got those screenshots, ladies and gentlemen, is because I noticed that every single political party had a sustainable development policy that was lifted directly out of Agenda 21, but it was only the Greens who were so in favour of it that they actually named it. Now, the last thing as well, just to mention, is the old Schopenhauer quote, ladies and gentlemen. First, the truth is ridiculed, then it is violently opposed, and then it is accepted as being self-evident. Gandhi said something similar, that first they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Ladies and gentlemen, we can win. Thank you very much for your time, Billy.
My pleasure. Take care, everyone. See you soon.
Cheers, brother. All right, there he goes, Billy Kahika from the Advanced New Zealand Public Party. Ladies and gentlemen, you can check it out at nzpp.org.nz. And I did, of course, want to just give you one more chance to see the baby video here. We'll see if I can full screen this one and get it to work. There she is. There's my little Bubba, and she is very cute, isn't she, with the little face. And I have a very childish sort of voice when it comes to looking at this stuff. Oh, we can get rid of probably the what are we looking at here? What are we looking at? OBS, there it is. We can get rid of that Skype window in the corner. There we go. All right, and here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'll play this one for you.
Just don't get him with the sweet. Oh, my lovely. Oh, my baby. Daddy loves you. Oh, you're so cute.
Oh, my God, it gets me right here. It's just ridiculous. It's my papa. Oh, my baby. Oh, my goodness. I have... and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, side note... I'm ignoring all my YouTube and Facebook comments just to see, as an experiment this week, to see if I can get more productive days going, because there's so much work to go on, and there's less than 40 days to save this country. So I apologise if you're commenting on my feeds and things like that, and I'm not reading them. And on the other hand, I do want to thank all of my wonderful mods in the chat rooms, J.S. Hansen, On the Fence with Muzza, Marley Pumpkin, and I think that Rika the Hopeful Voluntarist was here as well. Yes, she is. Alright guys, thank you so much for your time. Bear in mind, this is a listener-supported broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. I've been going for over 12 years with your help, and I hope to exist many more years. So if you want to donate $1,000, ladies and gentlemen, you go ahead and you donate $1,000. Every single cent counts. I do want to spend a moment actually profusely thanking those people who support me on Patreon. The links are in the description, and in particular this morning it was really enheartening to see the amount of people who are making big automatic payments like $20, $30 a month, that kind of thing, into the KiWiBank. Or again, the links to that are in the description. The huge amount of support that we've been getting from New Zealand listeners in particular since we've been starting to help the Advanced New Zealand Public Party has been absolutely phenomenal. I'd also like to thank Amos777 and D. McLaughlin in the chat for moderating as well. And as I always say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a very ungrateful person, so I do want to be reminded to be grateful and to give you thanks and praise for everything you have done to help this show along. Please give this video a like. Please share this video around. And thank you again so much for listening to the Vinny Eastwood Show. I am not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist.